I'm sitting here, and I'm looking at these Morgellons videos, and I'm noticing how basically once people get overly infected with Morgellons, or at least a certain percentage of people, because basically it looks as if the whole Earth has been smart dusted, and all this stuff is in us. I mean, and I've always wondered, man, how the hell are these gang stalkers tracking me? How do these people seem to know everything that's going on with me? And it's kind of hard to accept that is it possibly we've all been geotagged through smart dust. And this kind of reminds me of in the Bible when it says that they shall try to mix the iron with the clay, and but they shall not cleave. And I'm wondering if this is to do with Morgellons, because Morgellons basically, I think I seen a video where it showed that they start off as a blood cell, like it's identical to a blood cell, but it's made out of metal, and they're sprayed in the sky. And basically, once they get in the bloodstream, they grow a little tail that goes like this, and it motors them around. And they start to multiply once they get inside of the body. And then, they build little, like the first one gets in, then it replicates, and then after you get a billion of them, they start to make a machine. And then that machine starts to replicate, and then it builds a bigger machine. And then you get these people that got these crazy crystalline looking formations in them. And so um it's kind of crazy. Is that the iron mixed with clay? But I mean, that's the whole thing about these days. They try to mix things that you cannot mix. For instance, like all the Muslim refugees that they keep sending all over the world. It's like, listen, our ideologies are opposite. They will never mix. They cannot be mixed because they're that radically different. It's almost like uh, two of the same sides of of the magnet, and then that they repel one another. You know what I'm saying? It's just they cannot cleave to one another because they weren't meant to. That's the thing. They're gonna fight. There's gonna be a reaction, kind of like when you know it's like oil and water, man. You could shake it up and try to. It'll kind of it will never blend. It'll just be kind of, it'll still separate on its own. It'll separate just like these things, like people, like people who don't like tyrants separate from tyrannical type people. They're opposite ideologies. They cannot coexist in the same space. There has to be a space to keep these things apart. Same thing. It's like, yeah, I love my smartphone. I love my access to the internet. But I like to be able to take my phone, set that motherfucker in a metal box, and walk away from it. I don't want it inside of my brain. I don't want it tattooed inside of my hand. I don't want. I like having separate. I don't want to cleave to the machine. Like I said, I like some of the things the machine does. I like some of the access it gives me, the ability to communicate with other people consistently and farther than I normally would, just yelling out in the streets, shouting it from the rooftop. But even then, if I was out shouting from the rooftop, maybe one of my neighbors would be like, "Look at this crazy motherfucker," and then look, record me up there, download it to the net, and then bam, I'm out there again, because they got access as well. But I wouldn't want one of them to have the Google glasses always fucking spying on me. You know what I'm saying? It's like, that's the thing, man. It's consensual. Here's the thing. I never consented to persistent surveillance operations. You know what I'm saying? They just do this shit without telling you. They do it. They. It's all above your head. It's above. It's you're not. You don't have the specific clearance to be privy to that information. You have to actually go find out the roundabout way that they're already doing to it without your consent. Just like the smart dust and these nanobots, these nanoparticuli, which they're like a living fungus as well as a metal identical cell to a blood cell. It's like a blood cell that been replicated into a little metal casing, which, how in the heck does that work? You know what I'm saying? And like I said, they're trying to mix everything, even with the whole transgender thing and the gender benders. they're trying to mix the clay and the iron that just they're not meant to be mixed. And but yet they want to try. They want to try anyway. You know what I'm saying? They want to force it in. It's like they want to force that square peg into that round hole, basically, or and vice versa. And here's the thing. I mean, they're gonna do it anyway, but all you can really do about it is withdraw your consent and just make your peace with people and give a warning. That's all you can do. Uh, Unfortunately, it's the bad news that people don't like to hear, but somebody's got to be that guy that just doesn't care enough about your own reputation. If you got too much of a reputation to uphold, it'll stop you from saying the things that are you be afraid for fear that you'll lose your reputation, so you won't say these things. You need middlemen, or someone that has been that the reputation doesn't so much matter. It's more like what I'm saying. Who cares what I do, who I am, where I come from? What about the information I'm telling you? You know what I'm saying? Who cares whatever my personal flaws are? But if I'm telling you something that is true, you can validate it through other sources, many scientific journals, whatnot. Who cares what kind of person I am if it's the message? You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people get caught up in this, that they need some plastic, Barbie doll, Ken doll character to come up in a suit and a tie to tell them the stuff. When it's you're already looking at the wrong things. If you're looking at the messenger but not the message, I mean, there is a time where you can say, "Yeah, I don't like I don't like things about you, so I'm going to take that with a grain of salt, but I'm not going to throw it away just because." You're always the things that are most important to you, or that are going to be most important to know. You'll probably learn them from a place that you didn't expect. So your expectation a lot of the time is what stops you from getting the fullness of what's out there to be gleaned from just life. It's like you expect it to come this way, but that's not, unfortunately, how it's going to work when it does transpire. And most things in life are like that. You can't plan next week I'm going to have a car wreck, so I'm going to put my seatbelt on all week because I know it's coming. It's not the way it works. If you're going to get in a car wreck, it'll be at a time when it's unexpected, most likely. And so same thing with these things. You can't plan for it. You just got to stay aware. So, and that's the thing. You gotta peep the signs as they're coming in, and they're in little information will come in from the places that you least expect. But if you're expecting to hear it from a certain place, that's gonna take your attention, divert it to somewhere else. When it really does come, you won't hear it because you expect it. Your expectation was it was too rigid. You know what I'm saying? So I used to say I don't have no expectations anymore. So in other words, it's just I'll deal with things as they happen. Because if I make too many plans, most of the time things change to the point where all your plans never really come to fruition anyway. Because there's all these elements that come in that you couldn't perceive in advance. So there's no way to plan for them. So therefore your plan is thrown off. So if you make your plans too rigidly, you won't never be able to complete them. But if you keep yourself open and do things and stay in the moment, you can adapt as you go. You know what I'm saying? But then again, if you don't plan at all, then you leave too much to chance. So you got to have a general schematic, but it's not set in stone. You know what I mean? It's got to be a little bit flexible. Truly, the strongest things in this world are the most brittle. You know what I'm saying? And then the flexible things, they can withstand some opposition and then bounce back.